Bad Candy is a new 2021 horror film that just started streaming very recently, and I had the pleasure of watching today, and I have mixed feelings about it, but way more positive, especially as the film goes on, compared to the lesser preferred things of things that I found of it. Now, this is going to be a spoiler-free review, but as I always say, I pretty much consider any review a spoiler. So if you want to watch the film like first, like I would, and I would prefer to all the time, definitely go watch it and then come back and I'll kind of give you my generic thoughts without going into too much detail. But yeah, this film has Corey Taylor in it, and that's kind of how they marketed it because he's the star, you could say. It's an anthology film, and it's quite a long anthology film. I don't know if it overstayed its welcome, but it's definitely pushing like an hour and 40 minutes, and there's a lot of segments. What did I count here? There's like eight. There's like eight or nine, kind of separate, like anthology stories that do blend in. So you can tell this film is definitely being inspired by the film Trick or Treat, but it takes its own spin, kind of. It takes its own inspirations. It's not trying to copy Trick or Treat. You can definitely tell it's trying to copy the style of Trick or Treat, but it definitely does its own unique thing. I think it's pretty much lower budget than Trick or Treat was as well, but this is more of like the fun Halloween film you would have. Like it's just a pure blast. It's not very serious. Not a lot of the things are taking itself seriously. So it's very split and it's very different as it goes along. But basically, you have Corey Taylor playing a radio DJ, which I'm pretty sure he calls himself Crazy Billy or something along those lines. And as he's doing this nightly, Halloween themed radio show on Halloween night in the small town called New Salem, and these short stories play out as he's kind of telling them and explaining them as callers call in and whatnot. So basically, your first your first segment, your first anthology, it's weird because it really was playing out like more kids driven, kind of, because it had to do with a bunch of kids, like a bunch of teens. You have this girl who's having kind of stepdad problems, but for the film to start like that, it definitely took a different tone than like where the rest of the film goes. To the point where when the credits roll, I'm like, the trailer looked so good. Is this film really going to be this good? Because this looks like it's going to be a really bad B film. But then as the film goes on, this is one of those films that actually gets better towards the end, where a lot of films, they start for the first half really great and then they plummet in the second half. So this film being like this, I would say it's a lot better because at least you're getting the best for as the film progresses. If you can get through the rolling credits where they have Bad Candy scrolled across the screen, then I'd say the rest of the film definitely worked way better for me and definitely was not for kids. This is an R-rated film. Don't let the beginning of the film deceive you at all. But yeah, and then you get stories going forward. You get a story with this creepy guy giving out candy. I'm keeping this as spoiler free as I can. You get the story about this drug dealer that's basically doing his work in this goth nightclub, and then him ending up like giving out the drugs kind of plays consequences throughout the night, including some things to do with him. You meet this young woman who is also at this club, who ends up being a coroner who has to take a night shift at a funeral parlor, and of course doesn't want to. And then really weird shit starts to happen over there. You think it's gonna go a little bit Autopsy of Jane Doe, but it goes in a whole much wilder direction. You got this whole story going on with this Uber driver, which does actually connect a lot of the stories together. You get a pretty okay wraparound. I would say the last segment, it's kind of, it takes place, it's more like a paranormal ghost hunting kind of situation where it plays in like a Haunting of Hill House sense where you get a lot of like different times and different places blending together. So I found that pretty cool, and that's the story that directly wraps or ties into the wraparound the best. Now this film is also a CGI fest. There's a lot of CGI in this movie, and that's definitely going to split people. Because I'm not a big fan of CGI myself. I way prefer practical effects. And again, it's one of those things where the CGI segments happen right at the beginning before the credits roll, and that's where I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? But then the film goes on, and it just goes batshit, and it's just a lot of fun. It's one of those. It's a fun Halloween flick. It's more fun than like how seriously Trick or Treat kind of played itself, even though Trick or Treat was, goofy as well. But you can also tell that, like I said, this one is really inspired by Trick or Treat, or trying to play the tropes around Trick or Treat. There's a lot of similarities. Once you watch the film, you'll pretty much know what I'm talking about. But overall, I thought the ending was slightly rushed, but the film throughout, right after the bad candy shows up on screen, the film throughout is really enjoyable, and I'd say it's a pretty good time. So I would definitely check it out streaming if it sounds up your alley. If you like anthologies, especially, this is a really well put together anthology, and it's not fantastic. It's not the best anthologies, but it's a good anthology, and it'll deliver for sure. So I say go watch that. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews, and I'll be back with more real soon. So stay tuned, and cheers.